Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Authentic Achievements. We have a guest who's been on our platform before, and his story is quite incredible. He went to arrest someone who clearly was not interested in being arrested, and that person started shooting. So we are hearing about all of these shootings across the world, especially in the United States right now. This gentleman was shot 14 times. We're going to be hearing his story and bringing him out in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to welcome my co-host, who is a success in her own right. She has her own platform by the same name, Authentic Achievements, and she is coaching and leading people every single day. Let's bring her out and hear her story. Hi, KIM-ADELE.
Hey, Dr. JACALYN, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, and you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
It's nice to see you, and I know that you have been celebrating with your beautiful daughter the Platinum Jubilee and all of the acknowledgement to Her Majesty. How were the festivities?
Oh, it was really, really lovely. I mean, it's always a joy when you've got little people. My little one's 5 and her best friend's 7. So we had them throughout the weekend, you know, with flags and face paint. Watching that amazing clip. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, I highly recommend you go and watch the clip of Paddington Bear going for tea with the Queen. I think it's 1 minute and 5 seconds, but it's priceless. And my little girl and her best friend had us on repeat to the point where the Queen has a marmalade sandwich in a handbag, and I think Scarlett thinks that I have to carry one round for the rest of my life, which I'm hoping will wear off pretty soon.
You know, one thing I think is just lovely in everything that's going on in the world, to see the innocence and children laughing and playing. And I think that's what life is really all about. And children have been through so much, this generation that's growing up through this pandemic and the war and all the things going on. And it's nice to know that there are still those moments of genuine joy and innocence.
It's so true. And in fact, it really took us right back. I remember going to the Silver Jubilee, and in fact, we were chatting with my parents about the fact that the ridiculous little shorts that I wore at the time became the shorts that went on my older brother's favourite teddy for the rest of that teddy's life. Billy Duck used to wear my shorts. But you still remembered that, you know, the street party and the camaraderie and the innocence, as you say. It was that the childlike view of the world before we learn fear. And I think there's so much we can go back and recapture from that. But it was lovely to see people getting involved and connecting again after we've had such a disconnected couple of years because of the pandemic, quite rightly. But it was lovely to see some of that, you know, some of that spirit. I don't think you could buy anything Union Jack for about the last 5 weeks. Everything's sold out. So if you're a little bit lastminute.com like I am when it comes to these things, it was like, we might be making it ourselves.
Well, I just love the joy on your face in hearing these wonderful stories. And Kim, for people who are just joining us, we actually yesterday have some new radio channels that we're streaming to. I'd love for you to share with our viewers and our listeners a little bit about your background and the work that you do, and then we'll bring out our guest.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. So, so I'm KIM-ADELE. I run Authentic Achievements, which is a couple of things, really. So it started off as my next book, which is about exactly what I do, which is helping organizations to build brave belief, get unstoppable sales, and turn their leaders into talent magnets for guaranteed sustainable growth. But it's all about helping them lead their authentic life. And that's really when I got writing the book. And from that, I was interviewing people and was inspired by their stories and thought, what an amazing thing to be able to give to the world, that platform to be able to hear other people's achievements, how they overcame those obstacles, how they got out of their own way and went on to achieve their place in the world and shine their light. And that's really when you and I got chatting, wasn't it, Dr. JACALYN, about could we do this show here and be able to create that space for people to come on and share their stories and hopefully inspire anybody out there that's got a dream to go out there and achieve it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. KIM-ADELE, our guest, is joining us from Australia, and I believe it's midnight or close to there around. His name is Derrick Mcmanus, and as I mentioned, he was on another one of our shows, which was The Art of Mental Health Wealth. And he's a highly trained, highly skilled individual when it comes to combat. And for the average person, the regular Joe who's out there and might be confronted with someone in a situation where a person is carrying a machine gun or a regular gun, it would be absolutely terrifying. And this gentleman was dealing with this on a regular basis, and he was shot with a high-powered machine, and he survived, and he's here to tell his story. Let's welcome Derrick Mcmanus to the program. Hi, Derrick.
Hi, how are you? Great to be here again, Dr. JACALYN.
Nice to have you with us. Am I correct? Is it just around midnight?
It is 10:30 p.m. Yes,
Okay.
Just before midnight.
Just before midnight. Well, thank you for staying up with us. We appreciate it.
I love it. And it was great to be on your previous show. So being on this one, I'm really quite looking forward to it again.
Well, we're looking forward to it as well. And as you know, here in the United States, there have been so many mass shootings. It's unbelievable. And people are convening and trying to figure out ways how we as citizens can do something. And I'd love for you to just share how you decided to get involved in terms of the work that you've done. I know you did a lot of hostage negotiations, and you were supporting, protecting the Queen, and a lot of other work that you were doing. So tell us how you got passionate and interested about that type of work, because that's not for everyone.
No, it's not for everyone. And one of the things I do like to talk to people about is following their passion. And this became a passion for me. In actual fact, it became a passion for me after I got involved in it. So I was in the police force for just on 20 odd years. And I was actually getting a little bit bored of being a policeman. It wasn't giving me the satisfaction that I wanted. And I wasn't achieving as much as I wanted to. And I started looking around for other jobs, and I was going to leave the police. And then I came across Star Group and realized that what they do is actually quite interesting to me. I couldn't find any other jobs. So I thought to myself, well, if I can't find something else that looks interesting, I'll have some fun while I'm doing it. And so I'll do that while I'm trying to find out what I wanted. Once I started doing it, it became the greatest job you could possibly imagine. We had planes, we had helicopters, the helicopter that's just here in the background. We had trains, we had camping, we had high-risk arrests, hostage siege. I trained with the SAS, which is a British military and an Australian military elite group. I trained with them in counter-terrorism, and this gave me the challenges that I wanted in life. You're right, it's not for everybody, but it became my passion. Now, people say, well, you know, how can other people be passionate about their job if this is what you want? Let me tell you, I like my accountant. In fact, I love my accountant because she is passionate about accountancy. And if she wasn't passionate about accountancy, my finances would be out the window because I have no interest in it. But we need people to be passionate about what they love. And whatever it is that they love, we need to get them to immerse themselves. And this does go back to living our authentic lives, living who we really believe we are. It's not living up to somebody else's expectations. And as KIM-ADELE was saying, it's a matter of getting out of our own way, getting out of our own way of our own judgment, trying to figure out what society expects of us and just get passionate about what we do. And that's how I got involved in this job and became passionate about it. I love the work. Obviously, a few challenges with it, but, you know,
Amazing. It's so true. You can find the thing that you are passionate about and find the thing that lights you up, then it no longer feels like work, does it? It's just, it becomes part of who you are. You kind of almost can't not do it, because it's like leaving a little bit of you behind, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely embrace the statement that if you do what you love, it no longer becomes work. That doesn't mean that sometimes it's not hard, right? And it is tiresome, and it is sometimes boring, because you've got to go through those stages of growth and development and trial and error and failure. But if you're really passionate about it, you'll keep on wanting to go there, even though you know it's going to be hard. But yes, it's something you love, and that love of it just gives you the fulfillment. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be glory. It's just fulfilling what you really love doing.
Okay.
Yes, and clearly you have that passion, and you had that passion the day of the incident. Take us back to that day, if you would, please.
Yeah, so my section, police star group, as we call ourselves, and that's Special Task and Rescue. And it is elimination of violence and the resolution of violent incidents by land, sea, and air. We were asked to go and arrest this guy. And as you said before, you remember my words from the previous podcast, he clearly did not want to be arrested. We went to his house on a farm property. He started shooting. He was using a Chinese military assault rifle. And these are the ones that are topical in America at the moment. It was a semi-automatic. It was a 30-round magazine. And he fired 18 times in less than 5 seconds. And he hit me 14 times. He severed 2 arteries. I had 2 bullets in the stomach. I lost 45 centimeters of bowel all up. I had 2 bullets in my left thigh. Lost a massive amount of muscle and flesh in that left thigh. 1 bullet went through my right Achilles tendon, took out 80% of the thickness of my Achilles tendon. And then I had other injuries on my body that weren't quite as serious as those, but I was hit 14 times in less than 5 seconds. Now, I had severed arteries, and then I was lying on the ground for 3 hours, controlling my mind, my body, and my emotions for that 3 hours. People don't know how I survived with a severed artery, a radial artery in my left forearm, completely severed. Doctors said it went into fibrillation on either end, so it just closed off. They don't know why it did that. That was just good fortune on my behalf. But to be lying on the ground for 3 hours, it was controlling my mind, my body, and particularly my emotions, because we're emotional beasts. And when our emotions take over and our emotions start going high, our rational thinking takes a dive, right? And when our rational thinking takes a dive, that's fight and flight, that's panic mode. That's not when we do the smart stuff, that's when we do the dumb stuff. So I had to control my emotion, but not rule it out and say I don't have it. It's about saying, how do I control my emotion and bring my emotion back down and my rational thinking back up so that I could do the things that I wanted to. And if we can't control our emotion in a demanding situation, then we've got very little chance of putting into place the things that we really need to do. And this was planning that I had done beforehand. It's not about getting creative in the moment and going, oh my gosh, I've been shot. What do I do now? I need my resilience. How do I bounce back from this? It was about thinking about it beforehand and saying, if I get shot, what can I expect my best performance to be under those circumstances? And my best performance is not going to be peak performance. I describe what I say as optimal performance. What's the best we could possibly do under those circumstances? And I knew that I wasn't going to be running around and jumping and being able to do all the things that I used to do, particularly for that 3 hours that I was lying on the ground. It was about controlling my mind and controlling panic, controlling shock, slowing down my heart rate, slowing down my breathing, because I knew if I could control those 4 things, it would slow down my rate of bleeding, and that would help me to survive until I got assistance to me. So it's about working out how I can sustain optimal performance. And that's what everybody needs to do. Resilience is very, very powerful. We need it because we always need to bounce back from things go wrong. But what we need in the moment is how do we keep on sustaining an optimal performance so we can get to the point where we can start growing again. I was lying on the ground for 3 hours, and my blood supply got so low that even my vision closed down. So there wasn't enough blood going to my brain to keep that vision going. And I saw the white light that everybody talks about. But it's at that point that I started fighting my hardest, started moving my body a little bit that I could, just to give myself confidence I had something left. I started speaking out loud and saying, Derrick, don't give up. Derrick, keep on fighting. And then there were 2 rifle shots fired from outside the house. The shooter was still inside the house. So these 2 shots from outside, that was confirmation my mates were on their way and things were going to be all right. And I had a dump of adrenaline into my body and probably some endorphins from my brain, and my vision kicked back to perfect. And then I started passing in and out of consciousness. The boys got to me and risked their lives to get to me. And they got me to the doctor, and the first doctor to get to me said he didn't know whether I was alive or dead when he first saw me. And he described that I took a last gasping breath, and that's when he worked his magic. And, you know, I went through 2.5 years of absolutely physically demanding and harrowing rehabilitation, painful, excruciating, going through success and then bang, failure, and then having to grow again and then failing. It was a roller coaster ride. But 2.5 years after the shooting, I made a return to Star Group on full duties with no restrictions. The other amazing thing that people find is that within 3 months of the shooting, I had an appointment with one of the best psychiatrists in Australia for major trauma. And he cleared me psychologically to be able to go back to work the next day. Psychologically. Physically, no, but psychologically, I could go back to work the next day. And he said I never needed to come back and see him again. And it's from this concept that I've built this philosophy of human durability, being able to sustain optimal performance. What did I do in the shooting? And what did I do mentally, psychologically, to be able to sustain my mind and not have any anxiety, stress, PTSD, or any of those things?
Wow, just amazing. I mean, I can't
Incredible.
even begin to imagine. I guess it kind of, on one level, the ability for you, for the human being to overcome things, for us to deal with our emotions. And you're right, you know, we are emotional beings. In fact, our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So
yeah, right.
It's always going to be taking over. The closest I could even begin to think about it was they do hypnobirthing, don't they, where they teach you to get ready for giving birth and recognizing that, yes, that is going to be painful and traumatic, but that actually if you do the pre-work, if you get yourself into that space beforehand to manage your emotions, to manage your thinking, to control where your body sends the blood, because you're right, it's fight and flight, isn't it? If we feel panic, we try and run away, and that's not where you want the blood to go.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So that's the closest I can imagine. I did do that, and it's amazing how much that teaches you control. But I can't imagine the level you had to take it up to be able to do what you did in the situation that you found yourself in. Amazing.
So, yeah, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. But you've hit the nail on the head. This philosophy applies to every different situation. The more we're aware of what we might encounter, the more we're able to prepare ourselves for how we're going to handle it, right? If you were to go into childbirth and nobody told you anything about it, oh my God, it would be such a shock. You don't know whether that pain is ever going to stop, and you are just completely overwhelmed. So, and this a lot of the time applies to women with their first child, even though they're told all these things. You can be told it, but until you experience it, you don't know. So in your first child is probably reasonably more traumatic than your second child. And then your third child, it's still painful. It's still awkward, but you know it's going to be over, and you're just looking forward to that, and you know you can start celebrating at that point. And so the better we're prepared we are, the better we can handle it. And we don't actually, as I did with the shooting, you don't actually have to go through it. You just have to know how other people have dealt with those things. And then how have I dealt with something similar, and what can I improve on that performance to get better at this? So one of the things that I drew on was that earlier in my career, we had a guy who tried to shoot my partner and then shoot me. The gun that he was using was broken. We got into a wrestling match with him to try and get the gun away from him. We were that close that we were able to do that. And halfway through the wrestling match, he's called out to his girlfriend, cock the gun so it could be fired. She's reached over and she's cocked the gun. And then I've put my thumb between the hammer and the gun to stop the gun from firing. And prior to going into the shooting, and this is 5 years prior to going into the shooting, I took a look at the possibility going into Star Group, I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. It's a real possibility and a higher possibility in this job. And so I looked at what I did in that previous incident and said, how did I control my mind during that time? What had I done beforehand? And if I do get into a situation where I get shot, would I be able to do that again? What might be those challenges? And it didn't set me up for having a perfect response, but it set me up for having a better response than just going, oh, I'll wait and see what happens. And this is what you're talking about with the birthing. When you are actually prepared, when you're told, when you're able to visualize it and imagine what it might feel like and how you might handle it, your emotions will still go high, but then they'll come back down quicker because you go, this is what they told me about that. I know what to expect. I know it's only going to last. So I think you hit the nail on the head.
Amazing, and that is so true. I mean, I did hypnobirthing with my first child, my only child, and was able to do it with no pain relief or anything. But that's because you expected it. They told you it's that, and when you're in the moment, you're like, oh, it's painful, but I expected it to be painful, so that's okay because this is what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It took that panic away almost.
Absolutely.
You could.
And some of it takes away the self-judgment too. It's like, oh my God, this is so painful. Other women have done it and I'm weak. Well, actually, no. If other women have felt pain, I should be feeling pain. So that makes it more acceptable. And you go, okay, well, this is something I'm going through and it will finish. Yeah. So you're less judgmental when you know that it's the same thing that other people go through. And so I take a look at that quite often in my life and say it's as simple as driving my car from A to B. I've driven A to B 3 million times in my life, but does that rule out the fact that I'm ever going to have an accident? It happens to other people and they're great drivers. Why couldn't it happen to me? And if it does happen to me, let me handle it rather than just go, oh my gosh, I'm useless. So I'm getting a little bit emotional here, a little bit excited. I really enjoy these conversations, but it's empowering people to take control of their life and make deliberate choices about their responses to be able to better manage their future.
I love that. So
I love that. Yep. Go ahead, Kim.
Sorry, I was going to say, is it almost like learning to look at things from a position of curiosity rather than judgment? So interesting. I wonder why I've responded that way rather than, I shouldn't have responded like that. That's ridiculous. Everybody else does it different.
Absolutely. If we can get curious about our responses and be really introspective without being judgmental of ourselves, get curious. What was the reason? In fact, this goes even broader than this. When somebody does something that really annoys us, that we feel offended by, I like to say, let's find out what the reason was for that behavior. Because sometimes it's not the behavior, it's the reasoning behind it that'll make us feel a lot better. If they go, well, I did this just because I thought I was going to save you, and you go, well, how could you possibly think that? It's the thinking behind it. So it's the thinking behind our own behaviors that will sometimes make those behaviors acceptable. You go, okay, I understand that. If I change that bit, I'll actually get the response I want.
Brilliant. Thank you. We do have a couple of comments from Adam. Hi, Adam. Thank you for joining us. He says hello. And also, I just love your story already.
Adam and I are actually friends on Facebook, and I've listened to some of his stories. Adam, mental health awareness in the UK, I believe, if that's right.
Yes, that is right. Absolutely. Yeah. We are going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll have more conversation with Derrick. So stay with us.
Take a moment. Take a moment. Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
And welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show is Authentic Achievements. We'll be getting right back to the show, but I just wanted to share an announcement. As you probably just heard or what we're watching, the clip about the power of listening. I teach people how to listen at an elevated level, and I certify them. And some of them are featured in my new book that is coming out, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. This is the first of 7 books in the series that are dedicated to my great niece, Ella. And I'm the listening mentor, so I'm the ladybug there, actually, in the picture. And each of the other characters, animal characters, represent one of our elevated listeners here at USA Global TV. So this book will be coming out in November, so do look for it. And I'll be sharing a little bit of information about each of the characters, who they are, and what their listening journey has been to become elevated as a listener. So thank you for that. Okay, back to the show. Let's bring back my co-host, KIM-ADELE Randall, and our special guest, Derrick Mcmanus. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Derrick, I wanted to just share with you, as I was just talking about listening, you were in an extreme situation for which, if anybody had been trained mentally and physically for that, it was you. And that training served you well. You had to actually listen to what you had learned, listen to your body, listen to your mind, and block out everything else. Can you talk a little bit about that for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Listening to my training was one of the most important things. And when we in Star Group or any of the special forces around the world, when we train, we go through practice, rehearse, and drill. And this is as applicable to our performance in the special forces as it is to listening, in my perception. So I'd be interested in your feedback here. But practice is that you are told what you do and you start doing those things and you try to get it right. And once you start getting it right and you've got through the practice, then you start rehearsing it. And when you're rehearsing it, you're still going mechanically through the processes. Okay, yep, I know what's coming next. Tick that box, and you rehearse it to the point where you get it really, really good. And then you get to the point where you drill it. And that's when you have practiced and rehearsed it so much that you can now do it second nature. And in relation to listening, I had to listen to my instructors and everything that they'd taught me. I then had to put it into a process, and then I had to get it to the point where I didn't even have to think about it, but I still knew it. But the important person that I needed to listen to was me, because we will all be told different processes by different people, and some of them may be perfectly right for them, but not for you or us. And so we've got to do what resonates most with us. Some of the stuff that I did while I was lying on the ground, people said to me, "How did you know how to do that?" And I said, well, for me, it was just something that I'd thought about beforehand and said, that makes sense to me. And if I do this, it will work. It fitted in with other first aid that I'd learned. I was a very highly trained underwater diver, able to dive to 50 meters, use all sorts of breathing apparatus and be underwater for extended periods of time. And so I'd learned how to keep my mind and my body calm so that I didn't use as much oxygen while I was diving. Nobody had ever told us that we could use the same philosophy when we get into a panic situation. But I'd taken that lesson and put it with everything else. And some of the stuff that I did on the ground, people are going, how? How did you do that? In fact, the first doctor to get to me said that all the textbooks say that my heart should have stopped. With the injuries I had, with the amount of blood that I had lost, my heart should have stopped. He then went on to say that the only reason my heart didn't stop is I hadn't read the textbooks, which is quite a funny thing to say. But it also means that I did something that medical science didn't know about. And that was just listening to myself and taking a lesson from here, a lesson from there, and doing what I thought was right. And in this case, it worked for me. But it's listening to all those things, but listening to myself and what resonates most with me.
Thank you so much. It sounds like you were advocating for yourself, which is really important, especially when we just interviewed someone yesterday. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they told her, just go home. It's over. You've got a few days left, and that's it. And she wasn't having any of it. And she didn't follow the traditional path that the doctor suggested. And it sounds like in your case also, you advocated for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, doctors and experts will predict lots of things. In fact, in my recovery after the shooting, doctors told me that because of the injuries I had to my legs, I would never walk properly again. I would probably trip over my own foot because the Achilles tendon wasn't repaired immediately. So I'd probably trip over my own foot unless I really concentrated on it. I'd never run, I'd never hop, never skip and jump. I'd never jump out of a helicopter again. And I listened to the experts, took all their advice, and then spoke to other experts about other options, and realized there were other things I could do. I still only have 20% of my Achilles tendon holding together. I've been back to Star Group. I've jumped in and out of helicopters. I've been to high-risk arrests. I've walked Kokoda Track in Papua New Guinea, which is absolutely mountainous, 96 kilometers, carrying a full 25-kilo pack. I've ridden my push bike from Adelaide to Melbourne, which is 800 kilometres, 500 miles in 4 days, all with an Achilles that the doctor said, you'll never be able to do it. I think what happens is some people go, from my experience, I've seen people try this and they failed. So what you can expect for yourself is X, Y, Z. But as I say to many people, if you're the person who is prepared to push themselves further than what other people will, you've got a better chance of having a better outcome. Now, I had to also balance that with, I'm going to push myself as hard as I can to try and get as good as I can. But I also accepted that I may actually fail while doing it. And if I did fail not achieve, people like to use that. I have no problem using the word fail. If I didn't achieve it, then that's not bad, because at least I've had a crack and I've got to the best place I can. If I was just sitting on my backside going, oh, I'll never do it, I would probably be sitting on my backside for the rest of my life, maybe using a wheelchair or a walking stick. If I was pushing myself and I only got halfway to be able to do it, at least I'd be able to walk by myself and maybe run and hop and skip with my jump with the kids. But in my circumstances, I pushed myself all the way back to going back to star group with still some major disabilities in my body. Like nobody would think that if you've only got 20% of an Achilles tendon, you could operate at that high level. My left forearm, if we were face to face, I'd be able to show you my left forearm, and you see that that's about 1/3 smaller than my right forearm, but I've got a piece of shrapnel in my right wrist, and so my right hand is less effective than my left hand. So I've got some major disablements, but not the disabilities that doctors normally associate with them. And that's because I was prepared to push myself. It doesn't guarantee success. Nothing can guarantee success, but it'll give you a better chance of having the outcome you want, an outcome by design, rather than let's wait and see what happens and hope for the best.
Amazing. It talks about the power of belief. It reminds me of Roger Bannister when he ran the 4-minute mile. Nobody believed it could be done, and then I can't remember the number, but there was a vast number of people that actually also completed a 4-minute mile within 4 weeks of him doing so, because he'd splintered that belief that it couldn't be done, wasn't it?
That's right. And once we know that it can be done, we more believe that we could also do it. And I think it was about a dozen people within 4 weeks broke the 4-minute mile. I've got goosebumps just thinking about that, because it's the same for everybody. And I love talking to corporates and talking to them about what they can achieve and how they can go about achieving it. And I've got a whole process for it. But I love talking to kids in schools as well, because if we can get those messages into the kids' heads now, before they get locked down of, no, you'll never be able to do that, what can those kids achieve? What will they achieve? I'm hoping it's going to be something great for them. And it's not great in what I judge as great. It's judged by what they think is great. It's what they're passionate about. It's what they want to do.
I love it. And that's totally what Authentic Achievements is about, is saying it's about finding what is authentically right for you, and owning that as being, that's what you're here to do, not to look at it to either side and go, oh, perhaps it's not as good as what they're doing, or perhaps I should be thinking bigger for myself. It's like, it's just doing what's inside you to do and being proud about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the judgments. Oh my gosh, I should be doing something bigger. But some people get a real happiness out of minimizing. And if that's what you get your happiness out of, living on land, living organically, and just growing your own food and doing, love it, go for it. We need everybody in the world to be passionate about what they're doing. It's going to be a much happier world if we are.
Yes, it is. We've actually come to the end of our show, but before we close out, Derrick, I would love for you to share with our audience, especially people who are on the radio and they can't see it, the 2 items that you have on either side of you. What are the significance of them, please?
So the helicopter that I've got over here, this was actually a gift to me from the doctor who was on the extraction team, who risked his life. That was the helicopter that I was rescued in, and he spent much of his life operating out of the helicopter, flying to scenes. And on this side is, and if I can get myself coordinated, that's the Olympic torch, 2020 Olympic torch that ran before the Olympics started. I got to run with that torch for about just under a kilometre and got to keep it afterwards. And that was a really proud moment of my life.
Congratulations. That's outstanding. Derrick, can you also share your contact information with our audience? And again, people who can't read the banner or they're listening on the radio, how do they get in touch with you and who would you like to contact you?
Listen, anybody who thinks that they need to know more about resilience and how to put resilience in place, I don't believe that they want resilience. They want to be able to sustain an optimal performance. They want to move past resilience. They want to move past the bouncing back all the time. So anybody who's thinking about resilience actually needs to learn about sustainable optimal performance. And to get there, I actually use two different models of resilience, one for functional resilience for everyday use, and one for aspirational when we really want to push ourselves. And then we go to sustaining optimal performance once we're really good at resilience. So any corporate, any school, anybody. In fact, I'm coming to the US halfway through July through to August. So anybody who would like to contact me, Derrick at derrickmcmanus.com is my email. So that's DERRICK at DERRICKMCMANUS.com. Or connect me through LinkedIn or through Facebook. Same spelling, obviously. And I'd love to hear from you.
Where are you going in the States?
I've got some clients in California at the moment, and I've got a promoter who's on the East Coast in South Carolina. And so we're holding an event there as well. So anywhere in between, I'm going to be there for about 3 weeks. And I love exploring new places. So the further I can go and the more varied I can go, the happier I'll be.
Brilliant. Well, best wishes with these events you have coming up. And please do come back and see us again and let us know how they went.
I look forward to it. And thank you too, KIM-ADELE.
It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to chatting to you again really soon.
I look forward to it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now. Pleasant dreams.
Bye-bye. Yes. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much, KIM-ADELE. I hope you'll reach out to him, maybe have him on your platform as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What an amazing, amazing story. It blows your mind, doesn't it?
It really does. When we think about the small things that we complain about in life, and you hear that story that it was what he learned, how he applied it, and that mental fortitude to get himself off that sidewalk and to help. So amazing story. And I know people are going to be inspired by it. Just think about whatever it is that's going on in your life, and hopefully that'll put it in some perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, they say if you're ever given the opportunity to take away the pain of somebody else and swap it for your own, when you see it, you'd probably wish you had your own back.
That's exactly right.
Summarizes that, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. KIM-ADELE, I'm going to spotlight you, and if you can share with our audience how you work with people and who you'd like to connect with.
Of course. Thank you. So I work with organizations or owners who really want to be able to take their business to the next level, to understand what it is that's blocking them right now, and to deliver the right operational infrastructure and culture to double in size. So if that sounds like you, please do get in touch. Or alternatively, if you've got an amazing journey that you want to share to inspire others, if you've got a passion for helping people by sharing your aspirations, your journey, and your lessons, then get in touch about coming on one of our other shows to share your journey. And you can get in touch with me at kim@KIM-ADELE.com. And you can find out more about what we're doing at www.AuthenticAchievements.com.
Thank you, KIM-ADELE. It was lovely seeing you again, as always. And I look forward to catching up with you about that other project we were speaking about.
Absolutely. Hopefully sometime over the weekend if it suits you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. All right. See you then. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. If you happen to be on our YouTube channel right now, can you please subscribe to our platform? We would love that. We have, I believe, 26 shows a week now. And I just want to announce a new show that's coming up. There's several new ones, but this one's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's our first game show, and it's called Who's Listening? And I mentioned before about the fact that I am the listening mentor and I certify people to listen at an elevated level. This is open to everyone. Everyone in the world who's interested in getting certified as an elevated listener can do so for $257. It's a 2.5-hour course. And at the end, you get a quiz, which is 7 questions. When you pass that quiz, I personally certify you as an elevated listener. You get your headshot and your certificate up on my website. And you also are on the USA Global TV website. So once you're certified, you can play our game show. And I'll give you just a little bit of information about the show. It's going to be 15 weeks long. And each week I will be giving sound bites or giving information to see how well you're listening. So for example, if I gave the sound clip, Sally sells seashells at the seashore on Sunday, and I said to you, what was the 7th word? And you have 5 seconds to answer, that kind of thing. So it's just to have some fun and also to educate. And at the end of the 15 weeks, we will have the top earner and then 2 other people who will get prizes. So 3 people will have an opportunity to select from 5 different packages of prizes. The one that I am offering is a license to be an expert presenter on our Talking Heads platform. This has a retail value of $6,000. So of course you have to meet the requirements to be an expert presenter on our Talking Heads platform, but that's just to give you an idea. So if you're interested, go over to my website, drjacalyn.com/shop, and you can find the Power of Listening course there. And as I mentioned, it is my mission for everyone to learn how to listen at an elevated level. And then our team continues to grow as we welcome you as a certified elevated listener. All right, our next show is coming up right after this, and it is The Power of Etiquette and Manners. And I will be joined by my friend and co-host, Philip Sykes, who's joining us from the UK, and we have a fabulous guest today. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.